Good evening, everyone. Call the meeting to order. We are the planning board here to represent the city tonight on May the 16th, 2023. And everybody here tonight, if you're here to speak, you will be allowed to speak at some point. When you are called to the podium, please state your name and address for the court reporter or the secretary in this case. And we're also the Board of Adjustments, and we'll be having the Board of Adjustments meeting just as soon as the planning board meeting's over with. All right. Having said that, I'm gonna do a roll call. Mr. Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Huffine?
Here.
Mr. Benesh?
Here.
Dean Ward chairs here, Mr. Crispin?
Here.
And Mr. Wooten.
Here.
Okay, if everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from April the 18th.
So move. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, Cameron, let's move on to new business.
Not want to work for me today. Hello, no. So, all right, sorry about that. So this is a request to rezone 67 acres of property from unzoned to I-1 light industrial for the purpose of developing an industrial site in the future. The property is inside the employment district future land use zone. The future land use plan notes that the employment district is a joint land use area between Mebane, Graham, and Alamance County. The desired pattern for this area is to accommodate a range of employers and provide office space, industrial space, commercial space, institutional space, and residential housing. This request is accompanied by an annexation that will be heard at the June City Council meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is anyone here that would like to speak in reference to that? If you would, please step forward. I'm opening the public meeting at this time.
Hello, I'm Buddy Seymour of 1007 Battleground Avenue in Greensboro. And I'm with Windsor Development Group here representing the owners of the property, Scott Mayo Properties, which Bill Scott Jr. is our contact there. And just wanted to state that we were here only 4 or 5 years ago as we were involved with the same process on the property at the corner of Governor Scott Farm Road and Senator Ralph Scott Parkway, where now we have built 2 spec buildings. Amazon is in the first building, and the second building is in need of a 300,000 square foot tenant. In case anybody knows someone, I'll be welcome to answer questions later on. And we've been in discussion with city officials, economic developers over the course of this same 4 or 5 years regarding our project, as well as the site that we're seeking zoning and annexation for. So our request is really for industrial zoning. We don't have a specific plan in mind. Alamance Foods continues to grow. We're preparing for an expansion of their existing facility. We'd like to get this property entitled and set on the utilities services for it, so that we would have the ability to meet Alamance Foods needs, or we could move forward with an industrial development similar to what we've done over on the other property. We did mail out to the neighborhoods that received the notices, and we hosted a neighborhood meeting in the spec building. And the 4 adjacent property owners did attend, of which several are here tonight. And we welcomed the opportunity to discuss the project with them, and I think they were appreciative to at least get some information as opposed to maybe some other zoning that they haven't had. And there was one other neighbor who emailed, and I spoke with them regarding the project and gave them the same information that we provided in the neighborhood meeting. There's been a lot of interest in this site through the Economic Development Group. We think it will be a very successful industrial development, and we appreciate your consideration and would request your support for the request to be zoned light industrial. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour. Mr. Seymour, on this proposed 67 acres, have you done a projection what your maximum size building could be on that property?
Yeah, I would say it depends on a lot of things. We have sketched out a number of different options, and the largest building I think that has been shown on that is around 790,000 square feet.
And did that take in consideration any buffers around the property or anything like that?
It would have been laid out per the design, the ordinance. Yeah, there is a stream to the west of the properties, which would serve as a natural buffer. But it does about three houses, of which there are two residents here tonight as well. But we would go through the same site planning process that we would need to do on any project, and also the same DOT requirements as would be required. And we did pledge to look at the buffer zones and do as much as we could. We just don't know what the specific requirements of a user would be at this time.
Thank you. Any questions from the board, Mr. Bailey? Mr. Hoffman? Mr. Ganesh?
Not at this time.
Mr. Christman?
Not at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Seymour.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to speak?
My name is Greg Massey. I live at 3069 South NC 119 Highway.
Excuse me, sir, what was your last name? I didn't.
Massey,
Massey. I
Massey.
thought that's who you were.
And our address is actually a Mebane address, but we're an adjoining property, all three properties, but we're not here to speak against the zoning that they requested, the I-1. We know that something like that's going to come. Of course, we'd love to have seen it stay the tree farm, but we know what the economic impact is of that lot. What we would request is maximum buffer of 75-foot buffer with type A planting yard. We would also like to see a berm, maybe at least of 20 feet. If you have tractor trailers coming in and out all times of the night, it does create quite a bit of noise. And we're looking to block as much of that noise as possible. And we understand that there will be loading docks on our side of that building. I mean, it's just the nature of the type of building. But we would like to request that there be no additional parking for like empty or spare trailers, because when they're setting those and dropping them and picking them up, they make quite a bit of noise, as we've heard from other properties in the neighborhood. But that, like I said, we're not really here to contest the zoning, but we would like some concessions to help reduce the noise. Thank you.
Are you on the east side of this property?
I'm not good with directions. We're on,
The side opposite of the natural wooded area.
yes. Yes, it's actually three. It used to be all one. It's actually 3 plots of land there now.
Those three.
Those
okay.
three right there where he's pointing with the cursor.
Yes.
Any further questions? For Mr. Massey? Thank you, Mr. Massey.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience like to speak in regards to this matter? Mr. Boney?
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of questions, I think mostly to the staff. At the very beginning, the description of the area. This particular, or these properties are not in the industrial park, are they? The area that's been designated for the industrial park?
No, sir. How was listed in our future land use plan is this is the employment district, future land use zone. And basically everything that followed in the description was what was listed inside of our 2035 comprehensive future land use plan.
Okay, but not a part of the North Carolina Industrial Center portion. Is that-
Like I said, the only
No.
thing that I was reading off of was what was
Okay.
inside the employment district future land use plan, inside the comprehensive plan.
All right, so my question really is not a planning question per se, but in other words, in as much as this is Graham's sole jurisdiction, right? This will be a project, the ultimate tax consequences for which will be 100% to the city of Graham, not shared with either the county or the city of Mebane, because it's outside of the industrial park.
I cannot answer that at this time. You'd have to take that up with the upper admin folks. I believe they're the ones that orchestrate with with the upper admin, so managerial people here inside the city, but I know that it's probably potential that it will be shared across the three. I can't guarantee anything though.
My understanding, unless you've got some different information, is this is outside, in fact, explicitly, some of the property owners, I don't know about these three, but some of the property owners, when the industrial park was first, the concept was brought forward, wanted to be left out. And so the triangle between Kimry Road, which is the backside of this, and 119, which would be the front side of it, that triangle was explicitly removed from the industrial park area. The industrial park has a three-way split in revenues between the jurisdictions, county, city, and city of Graham, city of Mebane. But I'm, like I say, fairly sure that this is outside and that this would be entirely in Graham's jurisdiction, both for zoning purposes and for tax purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Boney. Anyone else? Right,
Mr. West, could you put those Creamy Road and that triangle that Mr. Bunny's talked about? Just get rid of, have a map view instead of an aerial view, please.
Yes, sir. So this, I have to refer to Mr. Boney for which triangle he's referring to, because I'm not entirely too sure either. But we have Kimry Road running through here, North Jim Minor, connects over here to South NC Highway 119. So what triangle he's referring to, I'm not entirely too sure. So this is the property in question, outlined in blue. So I don't know which one he's referring to.
Mr. President, the area from Kimry Road at the intersection with 119.
Okay,
That tri-
119, as they come back and hit Jim Minor Road. It's a.
oh,
triangle.
that whole area
Okay,
there?
yes, sir. I see what you're talking about. This whole area inside of here, the residential pieces. Okay, thank you, Mr. Boney.
That makes sense.
if there's no further questions from the audience, I'm gonna close the public hearing and we can discuss it amongst ourselves. Who wants to go first?
This is a simple rezoning.
Simple.
But we can't put conditions on it because it's not a conditional rezone.
Right. We can't put any conditions on it, but it will come back before us again. Unless it meets everything in the I-1. Correct.
Development wise, like what's getting placed out there?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I mean, if they exceed whatever boundaries of the I-1 zoning, if it's approved, then it more than likely will have to be conditionally rezoned. But for the moment, it's just blanket rezoning, no conditions, no whatsoever. So
We can't,
That precludes us from putting a berm or,
that's exactly.
okay.
Mr. Wooten?
No questions right now.
Finish.
Just for clarification for Mr. Massey between us. It's a simple rezoning. And there's no conditions can be put on it until they submit a plan.
no, not necessarily. So as it stands right now, if we move forward to next month, fast forward and the rezoning gets approved, then all the standards for the building that's going to be placed out there is subject to what's inside the development ordinance as it stands right now. There won't be any conditions recommended from you all or put forth on the property by city council either. So it'd just be based on what's inside the development ordinance.
That's the reason I wanted to bring it up
Mhm.
to clear things for
Yes, sir.
Mr. Massey.
So I may be able to know, I pulled some of the development ordinance stuff up as well. Looking at the different types of yards and plantings around there. So the type A that you're requesting, 40 feet width, minimum 50 feet, minimum average width, and the maximum of 75. So if we take the future land use or the land use classification of whatever's going to be placed out there, unfortunately, at the time, it's kind of hard to justify or tell which land use classification is going to fall under because we don't have a specified use as of right now. But since it is a budding use property residential, there's a good chance that it would be in the higher classifications of the wider plantings, whether that be a or B planting yard. But I can't guarantee that based upon whatever use they're going to propose at the lot. But the berm, there's nothing really that speaks to the berms in our development ordinance as of right now, so. And since it's conditional, as Mr. Benesh was noting, there's really nothing that we could put on the request at the moment. So.
Another question, Mr. West.
Yes, sir.
Is there, if we deny the rezoning request, they don't have to, in the waiting period, to come back with a reclassification of a conditional rezoning. Is that correct?
Well, if you recommend denial, they still have the opportunity to move forward to city council.
Sure. But
So depending on what comes in front of city council, if they were to come back with a conditional request instead of a I-1 request, then yes, they wouldn't have to wait the, what is it, 6 months?
yeah,
That you would have to, so because they're changing the classification. But if they were going to come back with another I-1, they'd have to wait the 6 months again. And that would also accompany a site-specific plan, so a lot of legwork up front on their end too, so.
okay.
Mr. Helfine?
Yes, I have a few questions for Cameron.
Yes, sir.
Cameron, can you tell me what the street yard width would be and what the building setbacks would be, please?
Yes, sir. So currently, as it stands, street yard, minimum width 8 feet, minimum average width 8 feet, maximum width 25 feet. 2 canopy trees per 100 linear feet, no understory trees, shrub rate 17 shrubs per 100 linear feet. So that's running along the Kimry and is that the Jim Minor side as well? Yeah, back along this piece right here. So this frontage that's on Kimry and this portion right here that's on Jim Minor. But I mean, it depends on, I guess, what type of, if they leave the vegetation here, if they're going to use it for any access due to this pond, I'm not too sure, but that would be the requirement if they were to provide it right here. That 8 foot. So
119, is that a side yard?
what's that?
119 wasn't a side, wouldn't be considered a side yard.
No, sir. So this would be that street side right here. So anything that abuts a street is considered street yard. So this small, well, there's, oh yeah, along 119 as well. Sorry, I apologize. So this North Jim Minor, this 119 and this Kimry, my apologies. And getting up to setbacks that you were asking about. Front yard, 50 feet for buildings. Parking areas shall be set back at least 10 feet from property line. Side yard, 50 foot to lot zone residential or any residence on a lot, otherwise 20 elsewhere. Side yard abutting street 50. I don't think that comes into play in this scenario. It might, no, I don't think so. And 50 foot adjacent to lot zone residential or any other residence on lot otherwise zoned elsewhere. So I think it's pretty much surrounded by, or at least on their side. So you're looking at that 50 foot over in this area. I'm not too sure if this one's classified as residential as it stands. It could just be vacant. So it would fall under, was it the type D that we had the discussion about? I'm not too sure. So.
And then Cameron, is there any mention of the use of a berm in the ordinance language for comprising a portion of the buffer?
I think the only thing that I mentioned. Buildings over 50 feet height or something. There's also discussion somewhere in regards to adding or taking some away if you put up a fence out there. So I think you can reduce it by 10 if you provide a 6 foot or 8 foot tall fake screen. I don't know if there's anything referring to berm inside of here. I can do a quick search, but I'm not sure that my berm size. The landscaping design, new berm shall have height of 2 feet. On the sign, talking about berms, so any type of berming used in the overlay districts. Or overlay district berm discussion. So nothing really outside of, the overlay districts of South Main Street and 54. Like I said, I don't don't want to hold you all up in that process. Not necessarily that would be a requirement for the development. I know it's been a topic of discussion before.
So I guess in a further question, then any of the concerns that Mr. Massey has expressed during the public comment period doesn't sound like there's anything in the ordinance that would help him to achieve those. Is that kind of your agreement as well?
I believe, as what Mr. Seymour was saying, they have to build everything to standard what it's right now. And as I mentioned, like the art that is listed here, I can't go into what exactly they would do. The fact that I don't have to understand. So all of the aspects of what's going to be developed out there will be held to the standard development. Where I can't give you exact details of it right now.
No further questions.
Any further? Any read?
Just a comment. It would seem like what you said earlier, this is just some without conditions.
Nothing further. I'll make a motion that we approve the request that is consistent with 2.4.1, 4.3.1, and 2.2.1. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
I'll poll the opposed. I didn't catch them all. Mr. Bailey, how'd you vote?
I voted aye.
Mr. Hopon,
I voted nay.
Mr. Benesh?
I voted nay.
Chair, I voted aye. Mr. Christmas,
Voted nay.
Mr. Wooten. 3-3, so I'll entertain another motion.
I'll make a motion that we deny the request for rezoning and urge the applicant to come back with a conditional rezoning application. And the applicable strategies are 2.4.1, the NC Commerce Park, and 4.3.1 land use patterns.
I have another motion on the table. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Just 2 opposed
Hey,
and 3 opposed, 3-3. I'll entertain any further motions.
During discussion, I guess that I could. I don't know if there's a hung jury aspect of it.
This hadn't happened in a long time.
I'd like to ask Mr. Seymour a question. That'd be appropriate this time.
I'll open the meeting back up to allow that. Mr. Seymour?
To prepare a conditional rezoning request, what would that involve with you and the Mayos to make the lands sellable?
Well, I think the difficult thing is not knowing what the use is. You just, handcuff isn't the right word, but you just start putting restrictions on things. It may be that we can provide everything that he's asked for with what we end up doing, but to say that's at this point, I think would not be prudent for my client. That's the reason we've requested it the way that we have, which is the same way we did the other project. You know, Mr. Scott has family that lives across the street. That land's been his family for generations. And they've been good stewards of that property, and I know that they would only endorse a project that is positive for the community. It doesn't mean that it answers everyone's questions or needs or concerns. But that's the approach that we have taken. The reason it's a simple rezoning that our request was. And I would again ask for your support for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr.
Can I
Boney?
ask, Mr. Chair, can I ask Mr. Massey a question?
Yes, Mr. Massey.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Massey, you see our dilemma here,
I do.
and I believe the board has all full intentions of trying to help you.
I understand that.
In a simple rezoning request, we're basically trying to do what we can, and it doesn't look like we can move forward with any type of action other than approve or disapprove. And since we're at this conjuncture, do you see it moving to the city council? And with their approval as is, and Mr. Seymour not knowing, and his client doesn't know what kind of building we're gonna have to put out there. It being a simple rezoning request, it's easy for us just to stamp it and move on.
Exactly.
How do you feel about this?
I feel like you could do a better job of rezoning it if you knew what was going there.
True.
And I feel like in reality, we're putting the cart before the horse by rezoning it before you know what you're rezoning it for. I get the basic idea of, but there's a lot of things that could go in there. And, they could come back and ask for a different zoning. Lots of things can happen. But, I really feel like that if we wait till they have a specific idea of what they're gonna build before it's rezoned would be prudent.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chris.
Can we see the triangle again, please? Just not the aerial view, but the street view. And you own the three lots up there, those three that go from,
Go from Camry all the way to 119,
okay,
all three of them together.
okay,
Let me close.
yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Boney, you have a question?
Well, a procedural question, Mr. Chairman. You've got the attorney here, so you can ask certainly him, but my understanding, I think there was some statement made that you have to make some recommendation. That's not my understanding. You've basically taken two votes that are 3-3. Both of those can be reported to the city council, but there's nothing further that the board has to make to have it go to the city council. Is my understanding of the statute and the procedure.
Close the public comment section. Try one more time. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to deny the request for rezoning.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Favor for denial? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Kelly, do you need me to poll the vote? Oh, thank you.
So that's 6-0 on the second vote of this vote.
Third vote. Thank you. Massey, I do encourage you to attend the city council meeting. We're just an advisory board and hopefully they can get something worked out before then or during the meeting. Same to you, Mr. Seymour. Thank you. Just, entertain, item number B.
Yes, sir. We got Mike working now. So second one is a request for a special use permit for a trucking or freight terminal, storage, repair, wash, or stop for the property located at 0 East Interstate Service Road. The site is currently vacant. The site is approximately 5.547 acres. The plan will permit up to 128 trailer parking spots. The layout would be accessed off East Interstate Service Road. A landscaping buffer has been proposed along the extent of the property. A type D buffer is required along the pieces abutting the neighborhood properties, and street yard buffers required along the pieces of the street. And in front of you all, you have the draft finding of facts and conclusions. In granting a special use permit, you all shall find that the six conditions listed below have been met, or it shall be denied. This is a draft for you all to review and make recommendations to city council. So base that on your decisions moving forward. And that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman?
I usually read an opening statement if you want me just kind of setting out the quasi judicial aspect of it.
Absolutely. Mr. Alphonse will be.
Mr. Chairman, Chad Huffine, I'd like to ask permission from the board. I have a direct conflict with the presentation and sitting on the hearing as I am assisting the lead counsel in presenting for this case. I've been hired by Cone Commercial Real Estate as the civil engineer for the project. And I would ask that the board make a decision that I may be recused from this hearing in an order to present or assist in the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Alphonse.
Does that require a motion?
Does require a motion.
I'll make a motion. We excuse Mr. Hoffine.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Alphonse.
Let me read that.
Go ahead and.
Okay. It's the opening statement. This hearing is a quasi judicial evidentiary hearing. This means it's like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. The board's discretion is limited. The board must base its decision upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. It is a decision that must be based on standards in the ordinance and based on facts presented. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. This meeting is open to the public. However, participation is limited. Parties withstanding have rights to present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Parties are limited to the applicant, the local government, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages. Other individuals may serve as witnesses when called by the board. General witness testimony is limited to facts, no opinions for certain topics. This board needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include predictions about impacts on property values and predictions about impacts of increased traffic. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon evidence that is indivisible is being projected to exhibits, certain maps, other exhibits are deemed authenticated by a property expert certified. Witnesses must be sworn in, must swear or from the other.
Cameron,
Thank-
take his mic.
Anyone wishing to speak on this, please step forward and swear in at the clerk, with the clerk.
Mr. Chairman, procedural question though, what notification is there that this was to be a quasi judicial? It's not indicated on the agenda.
Mr. West, can you address that?
Yes, sir. What it states inside the ordinance is the quasi judicial hearing comes during the city council meeting. This is what it states inside the ordinance, so that's why I was under the impression.
Mr. Cole, can you clarify this?
Based on what it says on section 10.141 of all the planning board special use permits, the planning board shall review applications for special use permits together with the company plans, maps, and drawings. Planning board may recommend to the city council to deny a special use permit, approve the special use permit based on subject conditions of individual special uses, or approve the special use permit for subject conditions based on special uses reasonable cause recommended by the planning board. Planning board may also recommend it no mention of quasi judicial inside of that section of the development ordinance. However, if you roll down to the role of the city council for special use, each application for a special use permit by the city council shall hold a public hearing, notice of which shall be published in the same manner required by a hearing on this article. Deciding a special use permit, the city council shall follow quasi judicial procedures as required by law.
I think in the past, we've always, on special use has been quasi judicial.
I remember.
I'm just going off what I read inside of the development ordinance. And I believe that it's been changed as well. I think before in the previous drafts of the development ordinance, there was discussion of quasi judicial during the planning board. But at some point in time before my tenure here, it was changed and there's no discussion of quasi judicial inside the planning board aspect.
Did the 160D change this?
Mr. Chairman, may I just interject? And I'm dangerously confused. But as I recall, I've heard a discussion at some level, this council, or rather the city council, or another jurisdiction's city council, that in fact, that statute did change. And the interpretation, though it varies by city attorney, let me say that I've heard, one interpretation is that only the council deals with it at the quasi judicial. But I've been at councils that take different positions, so I just pass that along.
Thank you, Mr. Boney. Mr. Coleman, I'm gonna allow you to make that decision for us. And then if it is a quasi judicial proceeding, did we advertise appropriately?
That I was under the impression, free to do this, quasi judicial, one, not the other, so.
Going to take a 15-minute recess and let you do some research maybe? We're going to take a 15-minute break, recess, and then we'll convene back at this is 20 after 7.
That'd be 10 minutes,
Oh, it's already 10 after, yeah,
20 minutes.
20 minutes,
So a 10-minute break.
10 minutes.
Okay.
We'll see if that works.
Don't need a motion.
Do we need a motion? We'll just go over the motion. I'll make a motion. We recess for 15 minutes. Make it 15 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Sure. I certainly don't hear. Well, that's. Based on what I'm putting on there in terms of my recollection. That's what he was asking. So.
Hope you pull that wire up. Hope you pull the wire. I'm for the tons of country that was just lays on the ground. They don't pull it. So, you know, the reinforcement wire, just like I said.
Yeah.
But if it stays on the ground, it stays on the ground.
Yeah.
Pull it up, it's in the tank. And so they gotta pull the wire.
It just looks like this. Well.
Special use permit. That's nice and different.
Does look nice.
Yeah.
Better do that, a lot of money to it. I'm thinking of that.
It was always denial, wasn't it? Yes, sir. Mr. Wall.
Moving on to city council. Pick it upstairs. Well, very definitely.
I need something more.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
You're very sweet. I appreciate it.
And we'll call the meeting back to order. I just want to ask this board what their opinion is. Do you want to proceed as a quasi judicial proceeding, or do you want to proceed as how it was advertised? If we do proceed as a quasi judicial proceeding, I think we need to table this to next month. And so we can properly notice and advertise correctly. Just want to get a consensus from the board before we move forward.
I agree with that position. I feel like it's the right way to proceed, sir.
As,
a couple of what's in the zoning ordinance. Judicial. So I don't see a reason to proceed. Well, why not proceed with the way we are now? Just let her rip, go on and have the hearing.
Mr. Wood? And I'm good with either way. We can proceed as it was advertised and not call it a quasi judicial proceeding. And let council run it, and we can straighten any procedural things out at the next zoning, planning board and zoning meeting that we have, if it needs to be changed or amended to text. But as our development ordinance speaks there, it didn't look like it appeared that it would have to be a quasi judicial proceeding. Are you okay with that, Mr. Coleman? Are you okay with us proceeding with the direction of how it was advertised tonight and not having this as a quasi judicial proceeding?
I'm good with, I don't know if y'all will vote on it, just get a bigger vote on the report. Wouldn't hurt.
Mr. Chrisman, you want to make that
I'll
motion?
We proceed with special use permit as introduced in the agenda.
I'll second that. All in favor? Any opposed? That's what we'll do then. All right, well, we've got by that
Yeah.
little hurdle,
So, I guess I'll read back through whatever was prepared. I guess, so we're under the impression that we're recommending approval or denial, to city council moving forward. There's the draft findings of facts and conclusions, staff recommendations, site plans, different other exhibits, special use permit applications, site traffic studies, things along those lines. And I believe that's pretty much it. But I'll read back through the summary. It's a request for special use permit for trucking or freight terminal storage, repair, wash, or stop for the property located at 0 East Interstate Service Road. The site is currently vacant. The site is approximately 5.547 acres. I would like to revise that the plan would permit up to 122 trailer spots as it currently shows on the updated plan. The layout would be access off East Interstate Service Road. A landscaping buffer has been proposed along the extent of the property. A type D buffer is required abutting neighbor properties, and street yard buffers are required along pieces of abutting streets. And again, you can find your draft findings of facts and conclusions, what you should base your recommendations off of. It must meet all 6 of the criteria in order to be recommended approval for. If you would like to add any conditions, you will need to list those in your recommendations as well. And if you have any questions, we'll feel free to kind of move on. So.
thank you, Mr. West. Any questions for Mr. Mr. West, before we move forward? All right, petitioner here. Please state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Matt Wall, attorney in Burlington. My address is 3453 Forest Dale Drive, Burlington, NC.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate the board's deliberation and commitment to trying to get this thing right and letting us to proceed. We were sort of expecting a quasi judicial, but we're happy to do it either way. And that's and I was glad that you allowed Mr. Huffine to recuse himself so he can speak on this matter too. May I approach just?
Absolutely.
That is a handout from Mr. Huffine. Here's a large version of the plan. Maybe a little more legible and clear to see the project and the plan of this supporting this special use permit.
Sir.
Yeah. The applicant, as I mentioned, my name is Matt Wall. The applicant is Cone Commercial Real Estate. And out of Atlanta, that's not related to our local hospital folks. But Mr. Huffine is the professional engineer that has worked on this plan and has worked on this project. And he is going to be presenting the lion's share of what we have to say tonight. But he and I both are here to represent Cone Commercial, the applicant, and to speak in favor of this application. I was going to, in the quasi judicial, we're going to ask that Mr. Huffine be qualified by stipulation as an expert. I assume that everybody would understand his qualifications and his credentials, that he would be considered an expert in terms of what he would have to say about engineering and site plans. So while it didn't have to be in the record necessarily, I believe you understand that he is such an expert. So we do believe, Mr. Chairman, board members, that this application, especially when you consider the detailed site plan, complies with the requirements of the City of Graham ordinance to issue this special use permit. The applicant and Mr. Huffine have worked very long and very hard to come up with this plan and to try to meet all the standards and conditions that the city set forth, TRC set forth, and the other city experts set forth to allow this plan to proceed and qualify as a special use permit. And I believe that collaboration's been very helpful. It's going to have a project that's beneficial not only to the applicant, but also to the city. And I want to thank the city and especially Cameron West for their collaboration and their working with the applicant to try to get this plan before the board this evening. I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Huffine so that he can speak to those 6 factors and the evidence that he can present to establish the basis under which those factors can be substantiated.
Thank you, Ms. Walker.
And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have of me too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wall. Mr. Chairman, Chad Huffine, 505 East Davis Street, Burlington, North Carolina, civil engineer for the project. Cone Commercial Properties asked us to look at the property specific to a rental truck trailer parking area for storage. My understanding of the project is the area will be used as a short to long-term area of storage of box type trailers, typically from an overflow of an adjacent area, from an off-site area, or from a private contract hauler that may need places to store his or her trailer. They can't do it in the residential districts. So the idea is Cone Commercial Properties buys this piece of property, creates a parking area. It's gated, secured, and placed so that the user comes and goes with his truck bobtail, picks up a trailer at any hour of the day, any hour of the night, and then uses it, fills it empty, brings it back. If that one truck driver has 5 trailers and one tractor, then he would certainly be able, be able to store or rent spaces at this place for his trailers to reside. So over the past year, we've worked with staff, with NCDOT, with the owner, with the property owner, and with the developer to come up with a that meets the current ordinances. The property is zoned light industrial. It requires a special use permit because of the overnight nature of coming and going of trailers. That's my understanding, and that's why we're here seeking the special use permit from you tonight. During our design iterations and submittals to the technical review committee, several items of concern were expressed, one of those being the driveway geometry and the ability for trucks to exit the property safely without running over an existing fire vault and hydrant assembly that's located at the current driveway. So the packet that we've submitted to you has an illustration or photograph of that deeper in the presentation. As a result of avoiding those pieces of infrastructure, we moved the driveway and created an extremely wide curb connection to the interstate service road. So if it looks abnormally large, it is designed based on the turning maneuvers of the trucks as they would come and go in an effort to prevent the truck traffic from crossing the center line in the interstate service road. So the geometry of the entrance is enormous, but it is done that way by design. One, to accommodate the trucks, one, to preserve the infrastructure that would possibly be an interference if the truck ran off the side of the road, and to maintain safety of the opposing vehicles on interstate service road. In addition to our site plan submittals and design iterations, we submitted a small traffic study based on the intended use and the geometry of the driveway and the geometry of the intersection at Interstate Service Road and Gilbert Street. That traffic study was presented to staff. It was prepared by Kimberly Horn, a good friend of mine, Earl Llewellyn, who you've heard speak before, prepared that document, and we used that document to design our driveway approaches with. The instance does not require a traffic impact analysis simply because the volume of traffic is significantly lower than the threshold that would require us to submit one. But in an effort to accommodate the vehicles moving and design it accordingly, we studied the key components that were necessary. So that's been submitted to the town and is, I think it's in the packet as well. As far as the special use permit is concerned, we have to present expert witness testimony at city council that will address the 6 findings of fact. As a precursor to that appearance, I've provided to you the exact language that we'll provide to the city council. And I'll be glad to go through each one of those points with you for the record if necessary, or take a break for a minute and let you read those and ask me any questions if you have any.
Go ahead and present.
Proceed on this.
All right, if you could, in your packet, and staff and town attorney also have these in front of them. If you'll go to the second page, behind the aerial photograph, you'll see condition number 1, that all applicable regulations of the zoning district in which the use is proposed are complied with. Our response: the applicable regulations of the zoning district within the subject site and proposed uses reside are being complied with in this proposal. The city staff has determined that special use permit application is required where trailer storage of 5th wheel road tractor type trailers are dropped off or deposited, stored, then picked up or retrieved by or moved with a road tractor. This use has been determined by the city to require special use permit as designated by the letter S within the I-1 zoning district table of permitted uses that you'll find on page 52 as a trucking or freight terminal, storage, repair, wash, or shop. The staff has indicated that the trucks and trailers will both come and go as required, move and operate on the site. Therefore, the special use permit is required. By making this application for the deemed required special use permit submittal, and by conforming to all other dimensional, technical, and other ordinance requirements set forth within the I-1 zoning district as depicted on the plan submitted with this application, and by completing the technical review of the accompanying plan as submitted, the zoning regulations have been met. Item 2, the conditions specific to each use identified by this ordinance are complied with. The proposed use has been determined by the city to require special use permit as designated by the letter S in the I-1 zoning table of permitted uses, page 52, as a trucking or freight terminal, storage, repair, wash, or shop. There are no additional footnotes or associated development conditions designated in this portion of the table of permitted usage. As such, by complying with these requirements of the I-1 zoning district, the special use permit application process, and by the technical review of the proposed plan ongoing, the conditions known and expressed to this proposed use are met. Number three, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plan as submitted. The findings that are necessary to support the special use permit request consider issues related to promoting the public's health, safety, and general welfare. The proposed improvements to this site and the specific additions will be designed in accordance with the City of Graham requirements as defined in the UDO, designed in accordance with all applicable permitting requirements, and will be constructed by all applicable driveway location and connection standards as set forth by the NCDOT in the City of Graham. Specific driveway items and connections are proposed to create an accessible driveway connection to the existing service road in compliance with technical criteria set forth by these regulatory agencies. Item 4, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining property or that the use is a public necessity. The project proposed will be designed and constructed in accordance with the City of Graham. Required perimeter landscaping and considerations are included. In addition to those requirements, the project will provide security fencing, additional screening where needed, and maintain a neat appearing area. Specific to this location within the City of Graham, any improvement to the property made over its current vacant condition will be subsequently considered an improvement, elevating the value of the site. Adequate separation between adjacent uses and buffers are provided in accordance with applicable zoning and setback requirements. Based on our experience with similar projects, it is not anticipated that property values will be affected by the development of this property as proposed. Item 5, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan as submitted, will be in harmony with the general area in which it is to be located and in general conformity with the plan of development for the city, for the Graham planning area, excuse me. The project as proposed will be in harmony with the surrounding uses and vicinity. The property is not being considered for rezoning and is adjacent to existing industrial uses on all sides. The development of this property within this vicinity completes the infill of vacant land in this specific general area. The proposed is consistent with the City of Graham long-range plan for this area and is consistent with existing uses and the intention of current landowners in the vicinity. There are no residential uses adjacent to the proposed use, nor in the general vicinity of the property. Current property uses in the vicinity of this site include a school bus parking lot. This lot is frequented at all hours of the day and night. The I-40 interstate, various truck and equipment storage uses and laydown uses, waste haulers, and the prison and NCDOT yards. This use will be consistent with those uses and brings no significantly different uses to the general area. Based on a collective review by our firm and the city staff, the proposed use will be in conformity with the long-range plan for this area. And finally, item 6. That satisfactory provision has been made for the following when applicable: vehicle circulation, parking and loading, service entrance and areas, screening, utilities, signs, and lighting and open space. Satisfactory accommodations for vehicle movement specific to this use and site conditions have been made. Truck turning movements into and out of the site have been studied, proposed, and reviewed by the city and NCDOT with the resulting driveway conditions and geometry tailored for this use. The internal movements, buffering, stormwater controls, and other specific technical provisions proposed have been provided and accounted for in accordance with good design and proposed adherence to all applicable city development ordinance requirements and with respect for adjoining properties to this proposed use and site. That concludes my response to the 6 findings. If you have any questions regarding those, or if there's additional detail, I'll be glad to provide that to you.
Mr. Huffines, under your item number 4, under your fencing and additional screening on your fence that you're proposing for the property here, is it going to be screened with a screening type material on the fence all the way around it? Or are you talking about screening from vegetation?
Both. I don't think it'll be on all sides, but we are concerned about the street frontage. Adjacent uses, such as the, old SCI building, where the, bucket trucks have their laydown storage now. Precedent was set, I think, 5 to 6 years ago for a visual obstruction, and a wooden fence was used at that location. I would see that this would be treated similarly, and so that was also proposed to the owner, vegetation and screening.
And the type of screening, would it be total obscured where you could not see through it?
So in my mind, and as proposed to the ownership, we have a windscreen we typically see on outfield fences at a baseball field. It's a black material that you have tightly woven. It's almost like a silk fence type material, a synthetic or polyester material. That's proposed. That has little eyelets, and you would hog ring it, connect it to the chain link fence surrounding the property. That supplemented with the vegetation required in the landscape buffers and the preservation of the existing vegetation to the west, all combined to buffer what I personally feel is adequate in that area specifically.
I have nothing further on the 6 findings. Anyone else have any questions just on the 6 findings right now?
How tall is it, Mr. Huffman, that security fence? How tall?
So we'll propose by ordinance, and it'll be 6 feet. If there is a provision that will allow us to make it higher or secure it with barbed wire, we will work with that as well. But I think the 6 feet will be the minimum.
Thank you.
Sir.
I have questions whenever you,
Yes, sir. Proceed.
all that security fencing, is it enough to keep people out? Vandals who like nothing better to do graffiti on these?
Well, that's our intention, and that's comparable to what they've done in other areas. I personally visited one in Atlanta in February. And it was not screened, but it did have a similar chain link fence and secured area. And it was in a neat area, similar setting. And there were so many new visual stimulants to me in Atlanta that I don't even remember where I saw graffiti, but I saw it everywhere. I really can't comment to that. My hope is that it would be a very peaceful setting. I know currently now it's not heavily traveled at all.
Also, under points 1 and 2, forgive my geriatric hearing, but it sounded like you were saying shop instead of what's written stop. Is that the case, or?
For truck stop or shop,
Yeah, it says storage, repair, wash, and it sounded like you said or shop.
so in the ordinance table of permitted uses, it's written as shop.
It has stop in this.
And we can look further in your packet. I think I provided that table.
Yep.
I'm sorry. It is written stop. I'm sorry.
That was all. I just wasn't sure about what I was hearing.
I'm sorry. And that reading without looking at you is difficult for me. I apologize for.
Mr. Huffine,
Yes,
you
sir.
talk about the security along with the fencing and the lighting. Any idea about vandalism because of the amount of trailers that will be in there? Vagrants, that type stuff, enough security? Any proposals in that area?
I can certainly mention that to ownership for private security to look at that. I have not thought of that. If the board so chooses to add that as part of a condition, you certainly have the.
Well,
ability to
if
do
you
that, and
take
I will-
in consideration the amount of storage, if those units are locked, and that's one thing, but if they're not and left open, it invites all types of things.
I will certainly take that to ownership as soon as we leave this meeting and have them give me an opinion on it. That's a significantly valid point.
Thank you, Mr. Huffine.
Is it empty trailer storage or just trailer storage? So it could be,
See, I don't know, and I would imagine it could be both. So we would need to assume it would be some with goods and inside, some that are empties.
is there what is the lifespan of the outfield fencing? That the nylon mesh is going to go on top of it. And is there a plan to keep that in good repair?
So that's a great question for a former baseball coach. I replaced a windscreen twice in my 8-year coaching high school career period. So I'm gonna guess 4 to 8 years. I think the requirement to provide screening would mandate the requirement of adequate screening and allow staff the provision to visit if there was a complaint that there was not adequate screening. I'm sorry.
Require and maintain.
I think that, I think your question brings a good point. If anytime during the life of the netting or screening, if it appears that it's in disrepair, it gives the zoning officer the opportunity to patrol that area and then report that finding to the owner for correction as part of a condition to this special use. I think.
Mr. Huffines, access to the property, is that by a gate and a code, or would somebody actually physically open it, or?
So in the back side of the property will be double locked because we need to be able to pass through. The front side will likely be a code.
Cameron, on page 52 of the ordinance, under the permitted use, is that a typo, or is it a shop allowed, or is that saying stop? Can they build a shop out there on the property? They should be able to, but I want to clarify that.
I think it's my typo.
No, it's unless you type this.
I think they mentioned
Because-
that a while ago, is it was stop.
It says stop.
It says stop in the
What it
city.
says
ordinance.
inside the ordinance on the table of permitted uses is stop. I think he just accidentally misspoke and said shop. Like you said, I do it all the time, trying to read these staff reports off y'all. I'll definitely mess up on some stuff. So, but yeah, it's like a typo. It says stop, no shop, no aspects of repair out there. It's just for storage. But in this case, it wouldn't have any aspects of a stop because it's being proposed for just parking areas. For storage per se, so.
Well, with that being said, if you had security, on-site security, are they gonna have a place? I mean, you would have to mention that to the developer, naturally.
Gate guardhouse, like
Have somewhere a guardhouse, something.
Kaiser Ross up there.
And I don't think that's a requirement via the special use that mentions anything about requiring anything along those on site. The only addition to the special use permit that was required was the traffic impact / study, which was provided. So that was the only additional item that was required based on the special use permit for the truck. I already listed all.
Mr. Chairman, I have guardhouse, key code, and private security as items to speak to ownership about. Is there a way we could provide me some direction on the specifics of that concern?
Certainly, if we get to a vote that that's a requirement, at that time, we would discuss it further if that's
Yes.
appropriate with this
Yes,
board.
yes.
But right now, we don't know where we're gonna be with it.
You mentioned pass-through.
Passcode for the front gate,
The back gate, he was talking about he had a pass through, double locked.
double lock on the back.
Where is the
Yes, sir, Mr. Christmas.
diagram? Where is the second entrance?
Yeah,
So
the
I
back.
can show you better on the aerial photograph.
Okay.
I mean, in from the Meal parking lot.
That's the
If I can,
Okay.
Sure.
if I can direct your attention to the site plan shows you a pond. And as you go further south, you see the cell phone tower there.
Yeah, right.
So the cell tower has an access easement that runs through this property. And in an effort to provide continual access to them at any time, the back gate would have to be double locked in a way that the cell phone landowner or leasing would be able to access the tower. So although that area is not paved, as it is currently gravel and grass, it would remain the same with a slight change in grade. providing access through the same way they already go. We would just have to gate that area so they could exit out the back to facilitate the tower service.
Would they come in the main, the new?
Yes, sir.
New entrance?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So you have, if I'm the truck driver, I have a passcode or a key or some way of locking, getting in that front gate.
right.
If I am SBA Cellular, I also have a key to a double lock on the backside of this establishment to allow my people to service the tower if
In
needed,
addition to the front gate lock and stuff.
in addition to that.
Okay.
But if I'm a patron or renter or lease holder, that access would be prohibited. So if I own a trailer, I can only come in the front and leave the front.
Okay.
Cameron, with this trailers being outside storage, does that qualify under the outside storage? Like across the street where they had to put the fence? Where you couldn't see through it, they started with the fabric and then come back and put the wooden fence behind it because you could still see through the fabric.
You're talking about for screening purposes, I guess, for whatever that may be.
Yes.
Let me look into it and just double check. I was going to read through it, but y'all continue and I'll come back to it because there is provisions, but I didn't want to escape off the site plan discussion of it.
Thank you. Mr. Alphonse, you can.
If I may offer, that is a voluntary provision. I do not believe that it is required for this use. It could be a condition, certainly, but it was a volunteer or a proffer.
Thank you, Mr. Alphonse. Mr. Alphonse, you got anything further you'd like to offer?
No, sir.
In regards to this?
Okay, so stay in grass or grass and gravel or what's the surface?
Gravel surface.
In the lighting, we didn't talk much about the lighting, but I know you will meet the minimum lighting ordinance. Do you know if we're just proposing down lighting or to stay within the property lines or?
That is correct. So we're required to meet city ordinance at the property line. Depending on who provides the light, whether it's Duke Energy or the private owner himself, that lighting plan will have to be reviewed by the technical staff.
Thank you, Mr. Alphonse.
Yes,
Any
sir.
further for Mr. Alphonse?
Yeah, I have a question on the arrangement that you have showing on this
Site plan.
site plan. You got the trailer slots 3 deep over on the right-hand side, 2 deep. On the left-hand side. How are they going to get those trucks in and out?
I think that might be part of the reason the special use was required. Because not only are the trucks stored there, but they are moved in and out and around on the facility to access other trucks. So the double parking of trailers is fairly common. So you would access one truck, back in the other truck so that the rear doors are door to door. And then back the other truck so that the doors are toward the fifth wheel of the middle truck trailer.
A lot of moving and manipulation.
It is.
About that, especially in regard to the number of trailers you could actually put on the lot.
Anything further?
Chair Ward, if I may, do you mind if I
Certainly.
speak on whatever
Certainly.
we were talking about earlier? So as we were discussing screening aspects in I-1 and I-2 districts, mentions about the buffer strip being planted, any use that abuts a residential zone, 10-foot wide planted with an opaque screen, evergreen. So with none of this being abutted next to residential zone, this aspect isn't necessarily, I guess, quote unquote, required via the special use permit. And I believe what you were referring to was the aspect of the storage yard in its own. So the storage yard is its own use in the table of permitted uses.
Yep.
Let's see, and it mentions a C note 13. The note 13 says outside storage is permitted as a principal or an accessory use if completely enclosed by opaque fencing at least 6 feet high. And I know this was a long discussion between Mr. Coleman, myself, Aaron, Chad, Mr. Wall, in regards to what separates these two. And I think that's where we kind of came from. It's like, it's one thing to store them, but the whole tenure of the truck staying there was kind of the deciding factor behind it. But, you know, them providing it's definitely going above and beyond from what they did. So certainly.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Alphonse.
Thank you.
Mr. Boney.
Yes, sir. I'm just trying to understand, Mr. Chairman, the acreage The front of Mr. Huffines' presentation says 7.5. But Cameron, when he introduced it, said 5.547. And then another part of the presentation here shows a lot that is also listed as 5.5, and that's the last page. I'm just trying to understand exactly what size is being considered, and presumably the whole special use permit is for the entire acreage, but what is the entire acreage?
Mr. Topham?
So if I may comment to that, and as submitted to Chairman Ward and the other members in an effort to clarify this, you have a plat provided to you. Yeah, that plat is dated May of 2009. The two properties considered for this proposal total 5.547. When one selects the GIS perimeter for this, the 7-acre parcel is reflected. So thank you for bringing that up. I should have mentioned that in our conversation, but staff's presentation of the actual acreage, and as evidenced by this plat submitted to you, is the 5-acre number.
I believe I messed up on that as well. For the original, I added in the 5.547 and the 2.095. I think that's where the 7 came from, but I updated it, and thank you to Mr. Wall for pointing that out as well. But it is that 5.547, as Chad noted on the plat over there, because these two pieces of properties, I guess, were combined. As you can see, below the 1 on the plat, you can see the 2.095 acres on the left-hand side, and that right-hand side, those two lots were combined. So it was combined with the 3.452 and the 2.095 to get that 5.547. It's a lot of numbers throwing out at you, and it confused me to begin with as well. So, but I think, to your point, Mr. Boney, we're going to stick with the 5.547. I guess on the plan that Chad submitted, just rounded up. So,
Well, and the shape of it is as shown on the next to the last page of the handout presentation. But as you say, down in the fine print, it makes clear that they're already counting that 2.095 as a part of the 5.547.
so are we good?
I think so.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. Like I said, I confused myself with it as well. And we want from Mr. Wall, we probably still have. So.
Anybody else in the audience like to speak concerning this?
Could I ask another question?
Step up, Mr. Bonus. Sure. Step up here.
Yes. I'm just wondering, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Huffine mentioned an example in Atlanta. I have not seen this type of facility before, and I'm just wondering if there's another one anywhere around in North Carolina that we would know to look at that'd be similar.
Thank you. Mr. Huffines, are you aware of anything present in North Carolina?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm not. I travel 40 and 85 almost every day. And I'm just sitting there trying to think what I've seen. I haven't.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything further from anybody in the audience? All right, at this time I'll close the public hearing and have discussion amongst the board members. Mr. Christman, I want to start with you.
Sure. The special use permit requires that you meet the 6 conditions, and those 6 conditions have been met in a more than adequate fashion.
That is for 122 trailer spaces, right? 122, not 128.
Right,
That's correct, sir.
122.
I guess my biggest concern is security with the area and what's being stored there for short and long periods of time, empty or full. And sometimes when you have full trailers, people get ideas. They want to see what's in them. They're empty. They may want to make a house out of it. You never can tell. So, with that amount of trailers, it's gonna create quite a lot of interest. That's my biggest concern about that. And what are we creating in that one area? With the, I guess, amount of trailers stored on that particular property. And I can completely understand why you want as many as you can. You make more money doing that, but it just, the security is the only thing that it really concerns me, I guess, in a way.
I would imagine that commercial people, and this is what they do, have taken that into consideration. And if I was looking to vandalize something, I'd go across the road, and especially if I was a young person, and vandalize a school bus or two.
Well, sir, I mean, you know, the business I'm in, we get quite a lot of vehicles that have been vandalized.
Yeah.
So it's in that area.
Yeah.
Mr. Bailey?
I was gonna say with the trailers, being that they're gonna butt them up, the rear to the rear, door to door, they're gonna back them up. That offers another layer of security there by them butting it up there. I've been in the trucking 34 years there. And our concept with one company I work with, we didn't even put padlocks on them because our thought process was, they want to get in there, they're gonna find a way to get in there. So we would put seals on the trailers there. And I think out of my 18 years, and I was in Fayetteville, I think I had to. He's curious. I mean, they left the product on the ground, but they didn't take anything. I
Well,
think-
you also have to consider, you've been in the trucking business a long time, and I can appreciate that, but I don't see that lot being completely full at all times, and some trailers not actually backed up to other trailers. So there is that opportunity there that may arise. The fencing is gonna be probably the biggest deterrent, along with the lighting and the barbed wire would help. But of course, if you ask Mr. Daniels down at Pure Flow, chain link doesn't work with cutters.
Oh, I've seen that, where they, we had the barbed wire and then, at the end, somebody took some cutters and cut a hole in the fence and.
On the
right
bottom.
in there.
Cameron, does our zoning prohibit the, I know you may or may not have seen these electrical fence that are in some of these tow storage yards that are behind the chain link fence that are approximately 8-10 foot tall. Is that allowable in the city of Graham?
I'd have to look into it, but I don't know if our ordinance is fully up to date to support anything along electric fences, but I can sit here, y'all keep on discussing, and I'll look and see if there's any electrical aspect of it, but a lot of what our fencing standards refer to, and y'all know just as well as I do, because they try to get some stuff changed with them, is there's hardly anything regarding fencing inside the ordinance outside of, you know, your normal screening of opaque, things along those lines. So I'll do a little bit of research right here, right now, but y'all continue talking and I'll see if I can find anything, all right?
I know that I've seen that at a couple of locations here in the county, at a tow facility, storage yard, and also at the Wine Gate Vineyard out on 119 north of Mebane. But that was to control the deer population. But it was the same concept that was at the tow yards, and I think that would be most appropriate for this facility if it's allowable.
Oh, some stuff that it mentions, and I'm just doing, like I said, quick kind of search through here. Discussing performance standards and all of the uses for I-1 and I-2 zoning districts. It mentions something about electrical interference. There shall be no electrical disturbances affecting the operation of any equipment other than that of the creator of such disturbances. So based off that, I don't know exactly what that reads, but I just wanted to point that out, and I'll continue looking through here, but yeah, we could sit here probably another 30 minutes and try and interpret what that means, so.
How about fence height? Constantine wire, barbed wire.
I think, and again, a lot of what our ordinance states doesn't really have a minimum maximum. I think the understanding is 6 to 8 feet is that kind of good range of, so if you got 6 foot high fence, 2 foot barbed wire above it. I don't even know if our ordinance speaks anything about barbed wire either. But I know that's been the common occurrence for that 6 to 8. But I'll continue looking as well.
Thank you.
Once again, I would defer to Cone Commercial. This is their business, this is their business model. If they have vandalism problems, they'll make corrective measures.
I think my concern is as the others, the security aspect of it. The 6 conditions have been met, I think. Not an issue, but I do have about security issues, vandalism, not so much people getting into trailers, but you see these pallets for
Right.
like to spray paint.
And I think if,
Very much to their advantage. Take all the appropriate measures to
Vandalism.
Upstate.
That's like.
And by the way, your question about this is a fairly. There's a lot of that.
I just know of a couple facilities here in Burlington, not far from Graham, that stores trailers. And it's not uncommon for them to find people during the winter months sleeping in them, setting fires in them to stay warm. And one even there was a body found behind one of them where it wasn't fenced in area. And there was a homicide committed. I don't know if it was in the trailer or not, but I don't want to create a strain on the resources of the city, having to respond down there on a regular basis to take calls for service for vandalism or breaking and entering, when maybe we can prevent some of that by going ahead and putting a condition on that they have to install it, and then it wouldn't be a question anymore. I think it would eliminate it. Any further discussion from any of the board members?
Another one of the things would be people plating tires.
Mr. Chris?
Excuse me, one other question. Allows for repair. That going to allow them to put a repair shop if needed on site?
I don't think if they didn't present the shop in the original presentation that they can add it after the fact without coming back before the board. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I mean, everything you see on here is suggested to be parking space. So if they were to add on a building, anything along those lines, they would have to come back. Any type of update to the plan would need to come back in front of you all, and we'll decide if it's going to be a quasi judicial forum or not moving forward, then in front of city council. So
Mr. Christmas, you have further?
Other than I'd reiterate again that this is their business model. And I would trust them to know what they're doing. As far as safety is concerned, as far as vandalism, as far as deflating tires, this is what they do, and they've studied the area, so.
I'll entertain a motion if there's no further discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the rezoning with certain conditions. The conditions being on-site security, with a guardhouse, the fencing all around the property to be opaque in nature. Can't comment on the electrical part because I'd like to add it, but don't know if it's allowed.
And you can add it, and if it's seemed that it's not, the council will kick it out. If you would like.
Electric deterrent they call it deterrent fencing, and it's not, it's more for I guess sometimes look at is it deer
Right.
and that type of thing. And it can be used for others, but it's kind of a theft deterrent or animal deterrent.
Are you proposing to put that in your,
No, he was asking me a question. I'm sorry, I got off track of that. And with the electric fencing, if allowed.
and as far as finding of facts,
Sorry.
as far as finding of facts, does all these meet or? do you-
Oh, yeah, and the finding of facts, all meet the 2035 comprehensive plan. That was presented by Mr. Huffine.
Any further?
No.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
I'll poll the vote. I didn't hear you, Mr. Bailey. Had Mr. Benes? I voted aye.
No.
Mr. Chrisman and Mr. Wooten.
No.
3-2.
I voted no, because I think the requirement of a guardhouse is onerous and it goes against the commercial business plan. I think they know what they're doing and we have to trust them to run their business the way they see fit.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted a clarification. The motion, can you reread the motion, please? I'm not.
You want them to reread the motion
Well-
and what the conditions were listed?
Just
Or-
the conditions.
So the conditions were that's a really good question now.
On-site security with guardhouse,
Yes,
With the
sir.
guardhouse, okay.
fencing to be OPEC and natural,
Mhm. In nature.
in nature, I mean,
Yeah.
and electrical if allowed by city.
And electric if allowed.
And does it need to, does the motion or the approval, the vote have to deal with being consistent or not consistent with the comprehensive?
He,
Believe he knows.
That did have.
he
that,
he
okay.
did note it was consistent.
Okay,
Consistent
thank
with
you.
the
All right.
twenty
thank you.
thirty-five comprehensive.
And the screening is the entire perimeter?
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Anything further? Okay, then our public comments for agenda items. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on any non-agenda item? If not, I'll ask the board, has the board got any public or any comment they want to talk about that's a non-agenda item? And does staff have anything, comments?
No, sir. I believe Mr. Bias brought it up last time about that roundabout that's going out. I believe it was advertised on the city website today that they're holding a public meeting for it. So if that piques your interest, you can see on the city website that they've set a public meeting for that roundabout over there. Was it on East Hardin or, yeah, East Hardin?
Hardin and Elm,
Yeah, yes, sir. So
When is that?
24th.
I believe the city just put it up on their
And that's East Hart.
website. Let me see.
East Hardin, East Elm.
He told me.
But who's having the hearing? I'm sorry.
I'm about to look it up real quick. Give me 1 second. Like I said, he mentioned it last meeting. He's not here, but I figured, see, public meeting, the NC Department of Transportation proposes is here at City Hall, May 23rd, 3 PM to 5 PM. So,
24th.
yeah, May 24th, 2023, 3 PM to 5 PM. Information meeting by the city of Graham and NC Department of Transportation will be held Wednesday, May 24th, 3 to 5, about the proposed roundabout in Graham for purpose of project, improve traffic operation, pedestrian accessibility to the intersection of NC 54 and NC 49.
Thank you.
And that's all I have, sir.
Okay, Mr. Huffines, you can join us back for the last little bit. Do you have any public comment? Or any comment from the board that you'd like to talk about?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. And staff finished with theirs, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, now we'll move into our new role as the Board of Adjustments. Cameron, if you could tell me who is supposed to be sitting here. Since it's been 2018 since the last one.
I believe, Mr. Crispin was the chair. Now, I don't know if y'all really need to move seats around or anything. So we can just kind of operate it as such. So, regardless if you were the chair now or if he was the chair still, I told him that.
I've always been the chair, but it's okay.
Yeah, look,
He can have it.
no, okay, I'm perfectly fine with it as well, so I think it may end up him being it anyway, so we'll kind of move forward.
Okay.
I understand Mr. Huffine is going to recuse himself again.
Well, we'll
No,
go
wait a
through
minute, wait, we gotta call it into order first.
and go the minutes and stuff, so
Yeah.
we'll,
So did you look to see who's supposed to be sitting here?
you are.
No, I'm talking about ETJ, the whole board.
Oh, yes, sir.
Some of the
Oh,
ETJ do.
yeah,
not sit.
so two people recused themselves. I believe it was Mr. Bias, or not recuse himself, but they're alternates. It was Mr. Bias and Mr. Wooten. I don't think that they necessarily need to get up, but
Okay,
they can't really speak on anything because they're
Right.
alternates, so.
thank you.
I think if you look at 160D, it requires 5 members,
Yes, sir.
including an ETJ member.
Two ETJ members. So
I think it just says you have to have at least one.
and we have Mr. Benesh.
Right.
And Mr. Huffines here as well.
Right, but there has to be at least 5 members of the board to make a ruling.
I don't
Have to be seated 5 people.
think that's necessarily the case. I think it's what is it, a max majority?
Got to pass with the supermajority, but the quorum is determined by the number of people who are sitting there right now before anybody gets, asked to be recused or anything. So you have a quorum and you got to go to approve the variance. It has to be, 4/5 or 80% vote, a supermajority.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to become the Board of Adjustments for the city of Graham. I'm gonna open the meeting in tonight's meeting is May the 16th, 2023, Board of Adjustment. And
Sure. Or you may read this again.
yes, sir, I was gonna let you read as soon as we get through the procedural stuff right here, just to approve the minutes, and then we'll
right.
get ready for you.
All right.
I'm gonna entertain a motion to approve the minutes from November the 20th of 2018. There's not but a couple sitting here that was here then.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And I'll second that motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Coleman, if you would.
Right. Well, again, we'll bear with me. I'll try to get through this. This hearing is a quasi judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it's like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must act, must make its decision. These rules are different from those types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. The board's discretion is limited. The board must have a basis decision upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. It is a decision that must be based on the standards in the ordinance and based on the facts presented. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and standards, not personal preference or opinion. This meeting is open to the public, however, participation is limited. Parties withstanding have rights to present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Parties are limited to the applicant, the local government, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages. Other individuals may serve as witnesses who, when called by the board, general witness testimony is limited to facts, no opinions. For certain topics, the board needs to hear opinion testimony from expert witnesses. These topics include predictions about impacts on property values and predictions about impacts in increased traffic. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. Note evidence that is inadmissible is deemed objected to. Exhibits are deemed authenticated if properly executed, certified, or endorsed. Witness must swear or affirm their testimony at the time. Well, that's where we are. I don't know who's here to testify.
Okay.
But they, if
There is one here.
someone be sworn now or Yeah, I'll do that. Last.
Yep. He can come on. Anyone wishing to testify, come up to the city clerk to be sworn in. I reckon, do we need to recuse him
Yeah,
before we?
I'm gonna read something, one more thing after he gets finished and sits back up there.
Thank you.
You can go ahead and sign that.
We do have that. It's a starting. Start with that. Okay.
Ready? You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
All right, Mr. Chairman, you may want to poll the board for any bias or fixed opinions, conflicts of interest, ex parte communication, or site visits.
Okay, at this time, I'm gonna poll each one of you to see if you've had any communications or if you have any bias towards this, and if so, if you would disclose it. Mr. Bailey?
Done.
Mr. Alphonse?
Yes, sir. Chairman Ward, I am civil engineer for the GFL, the applicant or petitioner in this case, and I would ask to be recused from this hearing so that I could also present on behalf of GFL.
Appropriate. We'll take a motion.
Make a motion to recuse Mr. Huffine from this hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Benesh?
No.
And
not.
thank you. Board, I think I have a conflict of interest in this also. I'm a direct competitor of GFL. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to sit and make any type of judgment or decision about anything concerning anything happening at their property.
I'll make a motion we recuse Mr. Ward from this hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
I have no conflict.
No conflicts here.
As it stands, you're currently the alternate, so we will have to bring you in to replace Mr. Ward as he be refused, right?
What's that?
So we'll have to bring Mr. Wooten on. to
Yes.
this. I don't know, Mr. President, if you want to make a motion to bring Mr. Wooten.
Make a motion that we fulfill the board with Mr. Wooten. Would you check on the number of people that are supposed to be on this board? I remember reading, the board has to consist of one ETJ member and at least 5 members total.
But from what I was under the impression of was that we actually needed to seat 2 ETJ members on the board. And since one's being refused, we don't have another ETJ member to replace the other ETJ member.
160D says the requirements for membership resident of extraterrestrial jurisdiction of Graham. This is resident or the requirements for membership. It doesn't say the number of.
And under the ordinances, 3 members shall be citizens of residence in the city of Graham and shall be appointed by the city council. 2 members shall be citizens and residents of the ETJ.
That's 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we use an alternate for one of the ETJ members.
You can. That is,
That's right.
One's a city member.
Okay,
And it talks about the alternates can be used to replace the city member, but we don't have any ETJ alternates, so.
right.
Yeah.
So in that case, what we need a total of 5, and not we could be 2 again.
Let's see, we're talking about getting to a quorum.
Yes.
Okay, I think it's still, a quorum for a meeting shall consist of the majority of the members of the board, not including vacancies, which we don't have vacancies here. We got recusals. So to get a quorum, we just have to have a majority of the
Okay.
5. Yeah.
And to approve that, I guess we said commission.
So, yeah,
Two, it needs to be a super majority, as Mr.
Yes.
Coleman mentioned, so
Yeah.
if we have 5, it has to be a 4.
Or 5th.
But in this case, For to get that 80% that's required, it has to be.
Unanimous. Yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
We'd all have to agree.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What,
Point of order, Mr. Chrisman. You
You what?
never voted. on the-
yeah, you're here.
You made a motion in a second, but you never
Oh.
voted.
I made second.
All in favor, let Ms. Wooten fill it.
Aye.
The tiebreaker. Okay. Upon the advice of council, then we will proceed. This is a quasi judicial hearing of the Board of Adjustments. We're here to find it.
Mr. Chairman, we have a question that would like to be posed, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Mr. Huffine, regarding the
Mr. Chrisman, Chad Huffine, civil engineer for the project. I'm listening and just curious if it is possible to postpone until we have 5 to next month. I know we got last minute where one of our members would not be able to attend, but I don't know if it's appropriate to ask for that type of continuance. If it is appropriate, I think I would like to ask that we have a full 5-member Board of Adjustment.
Reasoning, Does-
I'm nervous. I hate to put I hate to put the burden of a unanimous decision and not have adequate deliberation, and it's just because I'm nervous, sir.
okay,
It is a possibility to ask for a continuance, so I think I'm asking for one. I know I'm asking for one. I think it may be prudent to my customer to ask for one. It may just improve his
let
chances
me,
of success.
let me check with the advice of our legal
Thank you,
counsel.
sir.
I think you can continue. I'd continue to a time certain, next meeting. It's in y'all's discretion though. I think you can certainly make
This,
a motion.
do we need to do public notice again then?
Now, did we open the public hearing? Have we?
That we had,
Then I think as long as we continue it to a time certain, we don't have to do notice again. We should be
okay.
okay.
That being said, we'll open the proceeding.
Mr. Christian.
Yeah, we're just rule on the request for continuance without opening the,
So we have to open, you just said we had to open a public hearing.
no, don't open public.
Don't go any
Okay.
further.
Yeah, do
Okay.
not open.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I think it is in the best interest of the board and the applicants to table this as a continuance to the next meeting.
That
To
require a
the
motion?
June meeting.
Yeah, it does
Yeah.
require a motion.
Is that a form of a motion?
I put that in the form of a motion, sir.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Wooten, second. Any discussion on this motion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
And we just
The
make sure it's continued to the
The
next.
Board of Adjustments is continued to immediately follow the June meeting of the planning board. What day is that in June?
Well,
No, the 20th. That's postponed until the immediately following the planning board, scheduled for the 20th of June.
Mr. Chrisman, I'd like to say thank you to you and the board members for allowing us to continue this. I agree and I appreciate the motion.
Off the record, sir.
Just friendly reminder that no ex parte communication between that one next month. That's, just the same as from last month to this month.
Just a curiosity question, Mr. Coleman. Will these witnesses need to be re-sworn in and?
Yes, sir.
All of that
Yeah, I
again.
think it'd be reasonable.
Same procedure.
Thank you.
That being said, we have taken care of the new business of public comment on non-agenda items. Anything from the Board of Adjustment?
None, sir.
That being said, I will entertain a motion to be adjourned.
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
No, go ahead.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Chad, need a towel?